The strangest thing about seeing someone return from the dead is realizing they remember your name before you remember how to breathe. The dinner rush had swallowed the restaurant whole. Plates clattered. Glasses chimed. Conversations blended into a steady hum beneath the warm glow of hanging lights. I balanced a tray of red wine glasses against my shoulder and moved between tables like I had done thousands of times before. 29 years old. 10-hour shifts. 5 nights a week. My life wasn't exciting, but it was predictable. And after enough heartbreak, predictable starts feeling like peace. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows overlooking Lexington Avenue. The city shimmered beneath reflections of brake lights and neon signs. New York always looked beautiful from inside a warm restaurant. I was refilling water glasses near the back section when the front doors opened. At first, I didn't pay attention. Wealthy customers came and went every night. Wall Street executives, athletes, politicians, men who thought expensive watches made them important. Then the room changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle. Conversations softened. Heads turned. Even the manager straightened his posture. I glanced toward the entrance. 4 men in dark suits entered first. They scanned the room with practiced precision before stepping aside. Someone else followed them inside. My hand froze around the water pitcher. The world tilted. The sound around me seemed to disappear beneath the sudden roar of my own heartbeat. Ronan Vale. 12 years ago, he had been 17. A skinny kid with a secondhand guitar and impossible dreams. 12 years ago, he kissed me beneath a broken street lamp in Queens and promised we would leave the city together. 12 years ago, he vanished after a fire that took an entire warehouse block. Nobody found him. Nobody heard from him again. Everyone believed he was gone, including me. Yet there he stood, taller, broader, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His dark hair was neatly styled, his jaw sharper, his presence heavier, like the city itself bent around him. The tray slipped from my fingers. Crystal shattered across the hardwood floor. The entire restaurant turned toward the noise. My face burned. My manager shot me a horrified look, but I barely noticed, because Ronan was looking directly at me. Not surprised. Not confused. Certain, like he had expected to find me here. For one terrifying second, nobody moved. Then reality rushed back. I knelt to collect broken glass. My hands trembled. My chest felt too tight. This wasn't possible. Dead people didn't walk into restaurants on rainy Thursday nights. Dead people didn't wear custom-tailored suits and arrive with bodyguards. A pair of polished shoes stopped beside the broken glass. I slowly lifted my eyes. Ronan stood over me. The years disappeared and returned at the same time. Those familiar gray eyes hadn't changed. Everything else had. Delaney, he said quietly. My name sounded different coming from him. Older, heavier, dangerous somehow. I couldn't answer. He stared at me for another second. Then his gaze dropped toward my neck, toward the silver pendant hanging beneath my uniform collar. Every trace of calm vanished from his face. The color drained from him. His shoulders stiffened. His eyes locked onto the pendant like he had seen a ghost too. Where did you get that? He asked. Before I could answer, movement outside the rain-covered window caught my attention. 3 men across the street had suddenly stopped walking. All 3 were staring directly at me, and at the necklace around my neck. For a moment, nobody inside the restaurant seemed to notice the 3 men outside. They stood beneath the glow of a pharmacy sign across the street, half hidden by rain and passing traffic. But I noticed them. And judging by the sudden tension in Ronan's face, he noticed them too. The question hung between us. Where did you get that? My fingers instinctively closed around the pendant resting against my chest. It was nothing special. A small silver charm attached to a thin chain. I had worn it for as long as I could remember. At least that was what I believed. I have had it for years, I said quietly. Ronan's eyes never left the necklace. Who gave it to you? The restaurant suddenly felt too warm, too small, too crowded. I shook my head. I do not know. That answer sounded ridiculous even to me. His expression darkened. Not angry. Worried. Deeply worried. The kind of worry that comes from recognizing a problem before anyone else sees it. My manager rushed over, clearly trying to recover from the disaster of shattered glass. Delaney, are you all right? I forced a nod. I am fine. Ronan reached into his jacket pocket and placed several folded bills onto the nearest table. More than enough to cover every broken glass. Then he looked at my manager. I need a few minutes with her. It was not a request. Somehow, everyone seemed to understand that. My manager opened his mouth, then closed it again. Of course. Within seconds, he disappeared toward the kitchen. I stared after him in disbelief. 12 years ago, Ronan could barely convince a pizza place to hire him for weekend shifts. Now people moved simply because he spoke. What happened to you? I whispered. His jaw tightened. Not here. Rain streaked down the windows behind him. Across the street, the three men remained exactly where they were. Watching. Waiting. One of them appeared to be speaking into a phone. A strange chill crept up my spine. Ronan noticed my gaze drift toward the window. Do not look at them. Who are they? People who should not know you exist. That answer only made things worse. My pulse quickened. Ronan, you disappeared for 12 years. You show up with bodyguards. You act like those men are following me. Then you ask about a necklace I have worn forever. I think I deserve an explanation. Something flickered in his eyes. Regret. The familiar kind I remembered from long ago. The kind he wore whenever life disappointed someone he cared about. You deserve 1,000 explanations. His voice softened. But right now, I need you to trust me. I almost laughed. Trust him. The boy who vanished without goodbye. The boy whose funeral everyone attended without a body. The boy I spent years trying to forget. Yet standing this close to him felt dangerously familiar. Like finding a song you thought had been erased forever. Memories slipped through cracks I had sealed years ago. Summer evenings in Queens. Cheap pizza slices shared on apartment rooftops. Ronan carrying his guitar case down cracked sidewalks. The sound of him laughing when I beat him at boardwalk games. I remembered the night before he disappeared. We sat on a rooftop overlooking the city lights. He looked distracted, nervous. He kept checking his phone. I asked what was wrong. He smiled and said everything was fine. It was the last conversation we ever had. Or so I thought. A horn blared outside. The sound pulled me back into the present. Ronan glanced toward the entrance. One of his security men appeared beside him. Boss. The man spoke quietly. The vehicle is ready. Vehicle. Not car. Not ride. Vehicle. Somehow that single word made everything feel even more unreal. Ronan nodded once. Then his attention returned to me. Come with me. Absolutely not. The answer escaped before I could stop it. A faint smile touched the corner of his mouth. The first glimpse of the boy I used to know. Still stubborn. Still disappearing? The smile vanished immediately. Pain flashed across his face. Real pain. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then his eyes dropped once more to the silver pendant. The color drained from his face again. Not because of me. Because of the necklace. That frightened me more than anything. He stepped closer and lowered his voice. Delaney, listen carefully. 12 years ago, something happened that changed both our lives. Rain hammered harder against the windows. Outside, one of the men across the street started moving toward the restaurant. Ronan saw him. His expression hardened instantly. And if that pendant is what I think it is, he said quietly, then you are in far more danger than you realize. The man outside crossed the street without hurrying. Somehow that made him more unsettling. People who rushed looked nervous. People who walked calmly looked certain. Ronan watched him through the rain-streaked glass. Every muscle in his body seemed locked in place. I had never seen him look afraid before. Not even when we were teenagers struggling to pay for gas money and pizza. Who is he? I asked. Ronan did not answer immediately. His security team shifted positions near the entrance. Customers continued eating, unaware that something had changed. The restaurant still smelled like garlic, fresh bread, and red wine. Yet suddenly none of it felt normal anymore. The approaching stranger stopped outside the window. His eyes landed directly on me. Then they moved to the pendant around my neck. A strange expression crossed his face. Recognition. My stomach tightened. I do not know him, I whispered. I know. Ronan finally looked at me. That is the problem. The front door opened. A burst of cool air entered with the stranger. He stepped inside and removed Rain from his coat sleeve. His appearance was ordinary. Mid-40s. Clean cut. Professional. The kind of face people forgot 5 minutes after meeting. Yet Ronan's security team became instantly alert. The man smiled politely. Good evening. Nobody answered. He glanced around the restaurant before settling his attention on me again. Miss Brooks. Hearing my name from a complete stranger made my skin crawl. Do I know you? I asked. His smile widened slightly. Not yet. Ronan stepped forward. The movement was small but deliberate. Suddenly, the stranger's attention shifted toward him. For a brief moment, the air between them felt heavy with history. You should leave, Ronan said calmly. The stranger sighed. 12 years, and you are still giving orders. My pulse quickened. 12 years. The same number. The same missing piece that kept appearing. The stranger looked back at me. That necklace belonged to someone very important. I touched the pendant again. Who? His eyes softened unexpectedly. That is a complicated question. Before I could ask another, Ronan interrupted. You are done here. The stranger studied him for several seconds. Then he nodded. Perhaps. He reached into his pocket and placed a small business card on a nearby table. But she deserves answers eventually. He turned and walked away. Just like that. No argument. No confrontation. Only more questions. The door closed behind him. Rain continued falling outside. The restaurant slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed. Glasses clinked. A waiter carried dessert menus past us. Yet my heart refused to settle. I picked up the business card. There was only one thing printed on it. An address in Brooklyn. No name. No company. No explanation. What is this? I asked. Ronan stared at the card as if it carried a threat only he could understand. Trouble. You keep saying things like that. Frustration finally broke through my fear. You disappeared. You come back looking like you own half the city. Complete strangers know my name. People keep staring at this necklace. And somehow I am supposed to trust you? His expression changed. Not anger. Hurt. Genuine hurt. I never wanted any of this near you. Then why is it here? For the first time since entering the restaurant, Ronan seemed unable to answer. Silence stretched between us. Rain tapped against the windows. Somewhere in the kitchen, a timer rang. Finally, he exhaled slowly. Because 12 years ago, the night everyone thought I died, something was taken. His eyes settled on the pendant resting against my chest. And I think you have been carrying it ever since. A strange sensation moved through me. Not fear. Not exactly. Something older. Like a memory pressing against a locked door. Suddenly an image flashed across my mind. Firelight reflecting on wet pavement. A silver pendant in someone's hand. A voice calling my name from far away. The vision vanished almost instantly. I staggered slightly. Ronan caught my arm before I lost balance. Delaney. His voice sounded distant. My pulse thundered in my ears. For one brief second, I was no longer standing inside the restaurant. I was somewhere else. Somewhere 12 years in the past. And for the first time, I began to wonder if the biggest secret was not what Ronan knew. It was what I had forgotten. The memory vanished as quickly as it appeared. 1 second, I was standing in the restaurant. The next, I was gripping the edge of a table, struggling to steady my breathing. Ronan's hand remained lightly on my arm. Not controlling. Not forcing. Just making sure I did not fall. What did you see? He asked quietly. I pulled away before answering. The contact felt too familiar. Too dangerous. Nothing. The lies sounded weak even to me. His eyes narrowed slightly. He knew me well enough to recognize it. Apparently 12 years had not changed that. Delaney. I said nothing. Rain continued falling outside. The city lights blurred behind the glass like watercolor paintings. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then my manager appeared again, nervous and apologetic. Delaney, there is someone asking for you. My stomach dropped. Who? A woman. Ronan immediately turned toward the entrance. So did 2 members of his security team. The reaction was instant. Instinctive. The kind that came from living in a world where surprises were rarely good. A woman stood near the front doors. Early 60s. White hair. Dark blue coat. She looked harmless. Yet the moment Ronan saw her, something changed in his expression. Not fear. Recognition. The woman smiled sadly. It has been a long time, Ronan. My pulse quickened. She knew him. The woman looked at me next. Her eyes settled on the pendant around my neck. A faint tremor passed through her face. Oh my God, she whispered. You still have it. Every nerve in my body tightened. You know this necklace. Her gaze never left the pendant. I know exactly what it is. The restaurant suddenly felt silent again, even though people continued eating around us. The woman took a slow step forward. Ronan moved between us. Protective. Careful. You should not be here, Eleanor. So now I had a name. Eleanor. The woman sighed. You cannot keep hiding the truth forever. I am not hiding it. Then tell her. The challenge hung in the air. Ronan did not answer. Eleanor turned toward me. 12 years ago, there was a fire in Brooklyn. My heartbeat stumbled. Brooklyn. The address on the card. The memory flash. The same pieces appearing again. You were there, Delaney. A strange pressure built behind my eyes. No. Yes. Her voice remained gentle. You just do not remember. Images flickered through my mind. Wet pavement. Orange light. A distant siren. Someone shouting my name. Then darkness. I pressed a hand against my temple. Stop. Eleanor looked heartbroken. I wish I could. Ronan stepped closer. That is enough. The firmness in his voice ended the conversation immediately. Eleanor studied him for several seconds. Then she reached into her purse and removed a photograph. Old. Worn. Folded at the corners. She placed it carefully on the table. When she is ready. Ronan stared at the photograph, but did not touch it. Eleanor turned toward the door. The past is catching up to both of you. Then she left. Just like that. Gone into the rain. I looked at the photograph. My hands shook as I reached for it. Ronan stopped me. Do not. Why? Because once you see it, everything changes. I almost laughed. Everything had already changed. My first love had returned from the dead. Strangers recognized my necklace. People knew things about me that I did not know myself. What exactly was left to protect? Slowly, I picked up the photograph. The image was faded. Grainy. At first I only saw 3 teenagers standing together. Then my breath caught. One of them was Ronan. Younger. Smiling. Another was me. 17 years old. Standing beside him. The third person made my blood run cold. It was the stranger from outside the restaurant. The man who had crossed the street earlier. The same face. The same eyes. Except this photograph had been taken 12 years ago. Which meant one impossible thing. He had known us before the night everything changed. I stared at the photograph until the edges blurred. The restaurant around me seemed to fade into distant noise. Plates moved. Glasses clinked. People laughed. Yet all I could hear was my own heartbeat. The stranger from outside was standing beside me in the picture. Not near me. Beside me. Like we knew each other. Like we belonged in the same memory. Who is he? I asked. Ronan remained silent. That silence told me more than any answer could. He knew exactly who the man was. And he did not want me knowing. Ronan. My voice sharpened. Who is he? He finally looked at me. His name is Gabriel Mercer. The name meant nothing. At least it should have. Yet something strange flickered inside my chest. Not recognition. More like an echo. A sound from another room. Why was he standing with us? I asked. Because 12 years ago, he was one of the few people we trusted. Trusted. The word landed heavily. Outside, rain continued sliding down the windows. I glanced back at the photograph. Gabriel looked younger there. More relaxed. Smiling beside us beneath what appeared to be a summer carnival sign. We looked happy. Normal. The kind of teenagers who worried about homework and college applications. Not secrets. Not missing memories. Not mysterious necklaces. What happened to him? I asked. Ronan exhaled slowly. That depends on who is telling the story. Before I could press further, his phone vibrated. The change in his expression was immediate. Focused. Controlled. Dangerous. He listened for several seconds without speaking. Then he ended the call. We have to leave. I almost laughed. There it is again. What? You telling me what to do? His jaw tightened. This is not about control. Then what is it about? For the first time all night, frustration broke through his calm exterior. Keeping you safe. The answer hung between us. Honest. Immediate. Unfiltered. That should have made me feel better. Instead it made me nervous. Because Ronan had never been dramatic. Even as a teenager. If he was worried, there was usually a reason. I folded the photograph and slipped it into my apron pocket. I am not going anywhere. His eyes closed briefly. Like he was counting to 10. Delaney. No. Please. That single word surprised me. Not because he said it. Because of how he said it. The powerful man standing before me vanished for a second. In his place was the 17-year-old boy who once sat beside me on a rooftop and talked about seeing the ocean. I looked away first. That felt safer. My shift finally ended 40 minutes later. The restaurant emptied gradually. Chairs were stacked. Lights dimmed. Staff cleaned tables. Through it all, Ronan remained seated in the same booth near the back. Waiting. Not pressuring. Just waiting. When I finally stepped outside, cold air greeted me immediately. The rain had slowed to a light mist. New York shimmered beneath streetlights and reflections. Ronan's black SUV waited at the curb. So did 2 security vehicles. I stopped walking. This is ridiculous. One corner of his mouth lifted slightly. You used to say that whenever I tried helping you, because your ideas were usually ridiculous. For a brief second, genuine amusement appeared in his eyes. Then it vanished. We stood beneath the glow of a street lamp, 12 years compressed into a few feet of distance. Neither of us seemed sure how to cross it. Then something caught my attention. Across the street, near a closed bookstore, stood a familiar figure. Gabriel Mercer. He was watching us again. Not hiding, not approaching, just watching. A chill moved through me. Ronan noticed him immediately. His entire posture changed. Gabriel raised one hand slightly. Not a wave, more like a warning. Then he pointed toward me, toward the pendant, before disappearing into the crowd. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? I asked quietly. Ronan's expression darkened. It means he knows something. About the necklace? About the night you forgot. The city seemed suddenly quieter, even though traffic still flowed around us, even though people still hurried along sidewalks. Somewhere deep inside my mind, another image flashed. A pair of trembling hands. A silver pendant catching firelight. A voice saying, "Keep this safe." The memory vanished before I could grab it. But this time one detail remained. The voice belonged to a woman. And somehow, I knew with absolute certainty that I had heard it on the night everything changed. The image of the woman's voice followed me all the way home. Not her face, not her name, just the certainty that she had placed something important into my hands. Something she desperately wanted protected. My apartment felt smaller than usual that night. The familiar walls offered no comfort. Every shadow seemed to contain unanswered questions. I placed the photograph on my kitchen table beside the business card Gabriel had left behind. The address in Brooklyn stared back at me. One location. No explanation. No instructions. Just an invitation to a truth nobody wanted me to find. My phone buzzed. A text message appeared from an unknown number. Do not go to the address alone. My pulse immediately quickened. There was no signature. Yet somehow I knew exactly who sent it. Ronan. I typed a response. Then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. 12 years of silence made simple conversations strangely complicated. Instead, I turned off my phone and stared out the window. Rain continued drifting across Manhattan. Sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, fragments returned. Firelight. Wet pavement. The silver pendant. A woman's voice. Around 3 in the morning, I finally drifted into a restless sleep. The dream felt different from the others. Sharper. Clearer. I stood beneath strings of carnival lights. Music played somewhere nearby. Teenagers laughed. Summer air carried the smell of popcorn and sugar. Then I saw them. Ronan, Gabriel, and me. We were exactly as we appeared in the photograph. Young, happy, carefree. Gabriel handed me a stuffed toy after winning some game. Ronan pretended to be jealous. I laughed. The sound felt strangely real. Then everything changed. The carnival lights flickered. The sky darkened. A woman appeared at the edge of the crowd. Her face remained hidden, yet I knew she was important. She moved toward me quickly, urgently. Then she placed the pendant into my hands. Keep this safe. The same words. The same voice. I woke up gasping. Morning sunlight spilled through my curtains. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was no longer a random dream. It was a memory. A real one. I knew it. My phone vibrated again. This time it was a call. Ronan. I stared at his name for several seconds before answering. Hello. Silence greeted me at first. Then his voice. Low. Familiar. Did you sleep? I laughed softly. Not even close. He sounded unsurprised. I need to see you. Why? A brief pause followed. Because someone broke into the property connected to that Brooklyn address last night. Every trace of sleep vanished. What? Nothing was taken. His voice tightened slightly, which means they were looking for something. My eyes drifted toward the pendant around my neck. Or someone. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. I am outside. I moved to the window immediately. A black SUV waited across the street. Ronan stood beside it, hands in his coat pockets, looking up toward my building. For one strange second, the years disappeared again. Not because he looked the same, because he waited the same way. Patiently, quietly, like the boy who used to stand outside my apartment before school. My chest tightened. I grabbed my coat and headed downstairs. Cold morning air greeted me outside. The city was already awake. Taxis moved through traffic. Delivery trucks crowded intersections. Life continued normally. Yet mine no longer felt normal at all. Ronan opened the passenger door for me. Where are we going? I asked. His eyes met mine. Serious. Focused. Brooklyn. The answer should have scared me. Instead, it felt inevitable. Like a path I had already started walking long ago. I climbed into the vehicle. As the SUV pulled away from the curb, I glanced back toward my apartment building. A man stood across the street reading a newspaper. Ordinary. Unremarkable. Yet something about him felt wrong. Then he lowered the paper slightly. Just enough for me to recognize his face. Gabriel Mercer. Watching us leave. And for the first time, I realized he was not trying to stop us from finding the truth. He was making sure we reached it first. Brooklyn looked different in daylight. Older somehow. Like the city remembered things Manhattan had chosen to forget. The SUV moved through narrow streets lined with brick buildings and faded storefronts. I watched the neighborhoods pass by while questions crowded my mind. Ronan sat beside me in silence. Not cold. Not distant. Just careful. Like every word carried weight. Eventually the vehicle turned onto a quiet street. The address from Gabriel's card appeared at the end of the block. My breath caught immediately. It was not an office. Not a warehouse. Not a hidden clubhouse filled with secrets. It was a small public library. The building looked almost forgotten. Red brick walls. White columns. Tall windows clouded by age. A flag fluttered lazily near the entrance. This is the place? I asked. Ronan nodded. It used to be something else. What? His eyes remained fixed on the building. A community center. A strange sensation passed through me. The same feeling I experienced before a memory surfaced. Familiarity without explanation. We stepped out onto the sidewalk. Cool air carried the scent of rain-soaked concrete. The library appeared completely normal. Yet my pulse refused to slow. 2 security men remained outside while Ronan and I entered together. The smell hit me first. Old paper. Dust. Wood polish. Something deep inside my chest tightened. I had been here before. I knew it instantly. Not recently. Years ago. The realization stopped me in my tracks. Ronan noticed immediately. What is it? I looked around slowly. Tall bookshelves. Reading tables. A staircase leading upstairs. None of it should have felt familiar. Yet it did. I know this place. His expression darkened with concern. You remember it? Not exactly. I pressed a hand against my temple. It feels familiar. The elderly librarian looked up from her desk. The moment she saw Ronan, surprise flashed across her face. Then something softer followed. Recognition. Ronan. Her voice trembled slightly. You came back. Back. Not visited. Not arrived. Came back. Ronan offered a polite smile. Hello, Mrs. Bennett. The woman turned toward me. Her eyes widened. She stood so quickly her chair rolled backward. Delaney. Hearing my name from another stranger sent a chill through me. You know me. Mrs. Bennett covered her mouth. Tears appeared instantly in her eyes. Good heavens. She shook her head slowly. I never thought I would see either of you again. My pulse hammered. Another person. Another connection. Another piece of a puzzle nobody wanted to explain completely. Ronan approached her desk. Has anyone else been asking questions? Her expression changed immediately. Fear replaced surprise. 2 men came yesterday. Ronan and I exchanged a glance. What did they want? He asked. Old records. Mrs. Bennett lowered her voice. Specifically from the summer 12 years ago. Every road led back to the same place. The same season. The same missing memory. Mrs. Bennett disappeared briefly into a back office. When she returned, she carried a small cardboard box. The edges were worn with age. She placed it carefully on the desk. I kept these because I thought one day someone might need them. Ronan stared at the box without touching it. I noticed tension return to his shoulders. Whatever sat inside frightened him more than he wanted to admit. Slowly I lifted the lid. Inside were photographs, newspaper clippings, event flyers, community center schedules, ordinary things, until I reached the bottom. There, tucked beneath everything else, was a photograph I had never seen before. 3 teenagers stood smiling outside the community center. Me, Ronan, Gabriel. But that was not what stole my breath. A woman stood behind us. Her hand rested gently on my shoulder. Her face was clear. Warm smile. Kind eyes. The moment I saw her, the voice from my memories returned. Keep this safe. My entire body froze. Tears filled my eyes before I understood why. Because somehow, impossibly, I knew exactly who she was. And even more impossible, I knew she was the reason everyone had been searching for the pendant all along. The photograph trembled in my hands. Not because I was afraid, because something inside me recognized her before my mind could explain why. The woman looked no older than 40. Auburn hair, gentle smile, kind eyes filled with warmth. Yet the moment I saw her face, memories pressed against the edges of my consciousness. Mrs. Bennet noticed immediately. You remember her, do not you? I swallowed hard. I think so. The answer sounded small compared to what I was feeling. Ronan remained silent beside me. His eyes never left the photograph. There was sadness there. Deep sadness. The kind people carry for years. Who is she? I asked. Neither of them answered immediately. The silence felt louder than any response. Finally, Mrs. Bennet spoke. Her name was Evelyn Mercer. My heart skipped. Mercer. The same last name as Gabriel. Suddenly another piece clicked into place. Gabriel's mother. Mrs. Bennet nodded. Yes. The library seemed to tilt slightly around me. I looked back at the photograph. Evelyn's hand rested on my shoulder. Not casually. Protectively. Like she was watching over me. Like she cared about me. Why? I had no answer. Yet my chest ached as though I had lost someone important. Ronan stepped closer. Delaney. His voice was careful. You do not have to force this. But the memories were already moving. Small fragments breaking free. I closed my eyes. The library disappeared. Summer sunlight replaced it. Children's laughter echoed nearby. I stood outside the community center, holding a cup of lemonade. Evelyn knelt beside me, smiling, saying something about being brave, about doing the right thing even when it was difficult. The memory vanished instantly. I opened my eyes. Tears blurred my vision. I knew her. Mrs. Bennet looked relieved. Ronan looked worried. Only pieces, I continued. But I knew her. Mrs. Bennet sat down heavily. Then maybe there is still hope. Hope. The word echoed strangely. Hope for what? I turned the photograph over. Writing covered the back. Faded, but readable. A date. 12 years ago. 3 days before the fire. My pulse quickened immediately. 3 days. Whatever happened started before that night. Long before anyone disappeared. Long before my memories fractured. There is more, Mrs. Bennet said quietly. She reached into the cardboard box and removed a sealed envelope. Yellowed with age. My name was written across the front. Delaney Brooks. I stopped breathing. The handwriting looked familiar. Painfully familiar. What is this? Mrs. Bennet shook her head. I never opened it. Ronan's expression hardened. You should not. I stared at him. You knew about this. His silence answered everything. Anger flared unexpectedly. You knew there was a letter addressed to me. I knew it existed. And you never told me? His jaw tightened. Because I promised. The answer stunned me. Promised who? Before I could ask, my fingers had already broken the seal. The paper inside crackled softly. Time seemed to slow. I unfolded the letter carefully. The first line stole every remaining breath from my lungs. If you are reading this, then something went terribly wrong. The handwriting belonged to Evelyn Mercer. My hands trembled violently now. Ronan closed his eyes briefly, like he already knew what came next. I continued reading. Delaney, if the pendant is still with you, then it means you kept your promise. A sharp pain flashed through my head. Not physical. Emotional. A door opening somewhere deep inside my memory. Promise. Suddenly, I remembered standing beside Evelyn. Crying. She placed the pendant around my neck. Her hands shaking. Her voice urgent. Keep it hidden. No matter what happens. Keep it safe. The memory crashed into me with overwhelming clarity. I stumbled backward. Ronan caught me before I fell. The library blurred. My heartbeat thundered. And for the first time in 12 years, I remembered the final thing Evelyn Mercer said before she disappeared from my life forever. One day the truth will come back for you, Delaney. And when it does, trust Ronan. The words echoed through my mind long after the memory faded. Trust Ronan. Not run from him. Not fear him. Trust him. For 12 years I had carried anger toward a ghost. Now that ghost stood beside me. And suddenly the story I believed no longer made sense. My hands tightened around Evelyn's letter. The paper trembled slightly. Not from fear. From realization. You knew. I whispered. Ronan looked away. That reaction alone told me everything. You knew she said that. He nodded once. Slow. Reluctant. Honest. Yes. The library seemed impossibly quiet. Mrs. Bennet remained behind her desk, giving us space without leaving. Sunlight filtered through tall windows and settled across the wooden floor. Dust floated through the air like tiny fragments of forgotten years. Then tell me the truth, I said. All of it. Ronan stared at the photograph for several seconds before speaking. 12 years ago, Evelyn discovered something she was never supposed to find. My pulse quickened. What? He hesitated. Not because he wanted to lie. Because he was choosing his words carefully. Evidence. The answer felt too small. Too simple. Evidence of what? His gray eyes finally met mine. Corruption. A strange sensation moved through me. Deep inside, another locked memory shifted. Someone powerful? I asked. Very powerful. The room suddenly felt colder. Ronan continued. Evelyn worked with community programs throughout Brooklyn. She helped people everyone else ignored. Mrs. Bennett nodded quietly. She was one of the best people I ever knew. Sadness filled her voice. Real sadness. The kind that survives decades. Ronan continued. One summer she discovered records that connected several influential people to illegal financial activities. My head spun. And the pendant. He looked toward the necklace resting against my chest. The pendant was not valuable because of the silver. A chill crawled along my arms. Then what? Ronan exhaled slowly. Because it contained something hidden inside. My entire body froze. What? A storage device. The words landed like a thunderclap. Every memory fragment suddenly felt heavier. Every strange reaction suddenly made more sense. The pendant was never jewelry. It was evidence. My fingers instinctively wrapped around it. Evelyn hid it with you. The memory slammed into me without warning. Summer heat. A crowded community center. Evelyn kneeling beside me. Tears in her eyes. Her hands trembling as she fastened the pendant around my neck. Keep this safe. No matter what happens. Another memory followed immediately. Ronan standing nearby. Gabriel arguing with someone on the phone. Everyone looked worried. Everyone knew something terrible was coming. My knees weakened slightly. Ronan stepped forward but stopped himself from touching me. Delaney. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Not the powerful man he had become. The boy hidden underneath. The boy who had spent 12 years carrying secrets alone. You were protecting me. The realization escaped as a whisper. Pain flickered across his face. I tried. The answer broke something inside me. 12 years of resentment suddenly felt uncertain. Incomplete. Then another question surfaced. Why did everyone think you died? Silence filled the library. Ronan looked away. Mrs. Bennett looked away too. Neither wanted to answer. Which meant the truth mattered. Finally he spoke. Because someone wanted everyone connected to Evelyn erased from the story. My heartbeat thundered. Including you. Including Gabriel. He paused. Including you. The weight of that statement settled heavily between us. I thought of Gabriel watching from across streets. Leaving clues instead of answers. Following us without interfering. Maybe he had not been hiding from us. Maybe he had been protecting us too. Then a sudden memory surfaced. Stronger than all the others. A face. Male. Older. Standing beside a black car. Expensive suit. Silver cufflinks. A campaign button attached to his jacket. The image hit with startling clarity. I gasped. Ronan immediately noticed. What did you remember? My breathing quickened. The face remained vivid. Familiar. Not from childhood. From television. News broadcasts. Campaign advertisements. Public speeches. Someone famous. Someone powerful. Someone still alive. I looked directly at Ronan. Fear filled my chest. Real fear this time. Because for the first time, I recognized the person standing at the center of everything. And somehow I knew that if my memory was correct, the secret hidden inside the pendant could destroy one of the most influential men in New York. The face refused to leave my mind. I had seen it on billboards. On television screens mounted above crowded airports. On magazine covers displayed near grocery store checkout lines. Councilman Victor Hale. The name surfaced with terrifying clarity. My pulse pounded so hard I could hear it. Ronan saw the recognition immediately. You remember someone. It was not a question. I nodded slowly. Victor Hale. The moment I spoke the name, silence swallowed the room. Mrs. Bennett's face drained of color. Ronan looked away. Neither reaction made me feel better. It was him, was it not? I asked. Ronan exhaled heavily. Years of exhaustion seemed to settle across his shoulders at once. You were never supposed to remember that part. The answer confirmed everything. My knees felt weak. Victor Hale was not some hidden criminal living in the shadows. He was one of the most respected public figures in New York. A philanthropist. A reform advocate. A future mayor according to every news channel. That is impossible. The words escaped automatically. Yet deep down I knew they were not. Memories continued surfacing, small pieces fitting together. I remembered seeing Victor at community events, shaking hands, smiling for photographs, speaking about helping neighborhoods. Everyone trusted him. Everyone admired him, including me, especially me, which was exactly why nobody would have questioned his presence near the community center. Ronan stepped toward the window. His reflection stretched across the glass. Evelyn discovered financial records connecting Hale to several shell organizations. I stared at him, and the evidence ended up inside the pendant. He nodded. She knew official channels would bury it. Mrs. Bennett folded her hands tightly. She believed the truth mattered more than her reputation. The sadness in her voice returned, deep and old. I looked down at the necklace resting against my chest. For 12 years I thought it was nothing more than a keepsake. Something ordinary. Something sentimental. Instead, it had quietly carried the reason so many lives changed. Another memory surfaced unexpectedly. Evelyn sitting across from Gabriel and Ronan inside a small office. Papers covered the desk. Everyone looked worried. Everyone kept glancing toward the door. Then Evelyn looked directly at me. If anything happens, you run. The memory disappeared. I grabbed the edge of a nearby table. Ronan immediately noticed. What did you see? She was afraid. My voice trembled. She knew something bad was coming. He closed his eyes briefly. Yes. The single word carried years of regret. Suddenly another question struck me, one I should have asked much sooner. Why me? Both Ronan and Mrs. Bennett looked surprised. What? Ronan asked. Why did she choose me? Tears burned behind my eyes. I was 17. Gabriel was older. You were older. Why trust me with something this important? Ronan stared at me for several seconds. Then a faint smile appeared. Sad but genuine. Because you were the only person she believed could never be bought. The answer hit harder than I expected. Memories returned immediately. Volunteer projects. Community events. Long afternoons helping children with reading programs. Evelyn always encouraging me. Always believing in me. More than I ever believed in myself. My chest tightened painfully. She had trusted me. And somehow I had forgotten her. A sudden noise interrupted the moment. One of Ronan's security men entered the library. His expression looked unusually tense. We need to leave. Ronan straightened immediately. What? The man handed him a phone. A news alert filled the screen. My stomach dropped the second I saw the headline. Councilman Victor Hale had just announced a major campaign event scheduled for that evening. The location made my blood run cold. The old community center. The same building connected to every memory now returning. The same place where everything began. Ronan looked from the screen to me. Understanding flashed across both our faces simultaneously. Victor Hale was not returning there by coincidence. Somehow he knew the past was waking up. And for the first time in 12 years, it felt like the truth was moving toward us just as quickly as we were moving toward it. The drive back across the city felt different. Not because the traffic had changed. Because everything else had. The mystery was no longer hidden behind shadows and missing memories. It had a face now, a name, a timeline, and somehow that made it more frightening. Ronan sat beside me reviewing information on his phone. The glow from the screen reflected across his features. Older, stronger, harder. Yet every so often I caught glimpses of the boy I once knew. The boy who used to sketch impossible futures on napkins. The boy who promised we would leave New York together. My chest tightened at the memory. We never got the chance. The SUV stopped several blocks away from the old community center. The campaign event would not begin for another 2 hours. Yet the streets were already crowded. Volunteers moved equipment. Reporters prepared cameras. Campaign signs lined sidewalks. Victor Hale smiled from every banner. Trust. Integrity. Leadership. The words felt almost cruel now. I stared at one poster as we walked. The image triggered another flash of memory. Not a complete scene. Just fragments. Victor shaking hands with children. Evelyn watching him carefully from across a room. Gabriel looking uncomfortable. Ronan arguing with someone near a doorway. Then the memory disappeared. Another one. Ronan asked quietly. I nodded. They are coming faster. Concern flickered across his face. Do not push yourself. I almost smiled. You have been saying that for 12 years, have not you? He looked away. The silence answered for him. We entered a nearby office building owned by one of Ronan's companies. From the upper floor, we had a clear view of the community center. People continued gathering outside. News vans arrived. Security teams moved through the crowd. Everything appeared normal. Yet beneath the surface, tension pulled tighter every minute. A knock interrupted the room's silence. One of Ronan's associates entered. To my surprise, Gabriel followed him. The moment our eyes met, a strange mix of emotions surfaced. Suspicion, curiosity, familiarity. He looked older than the photograph. More tired too. Like carrying secrets had aged him faster than time. You finally remembered her. His voice was gentle. I knew immediately he meant Evelyn. Some of it. Gabriel nodded slowly. Pain flashed across his face. She would be happy about that. The sincerity caught me off guard. For days I had viewed him as part of the mystery. Now I saw grief. Real grief. The kind that never fully leaves. Ronan crossed his arms. Tell her. Gabriel looked toward the community center through the window. Then back at me. The reason I kept watching you was never the pendant. My pulse quickened. Then what? He hesitated. Because you were the last person who saw Evelyn alive. The room fell silent. Every sound seemed to disappear. Even my breathing stopped. What? The word barely escaped my lips. Gabriel's expression softened. You were with her that night. Another memory exploded forward. The community center. Darkness outside. Evelyn kneeling beside me, pressing the pendant into my hands. Tears in her eyes. Then a car arriving outside. A black car. My heartbeat accelerated. More details surfaced. Victor Hale stepping out. Smiling. Calm. Confident. Evelyn telling me to leave through the back entrance. Telling me not to look back. The memory shattered before revealing more. I grabbed the edge of a desk to steady myself. Gabriel stepped closer. You remembered something. I looked up slowly. Fear filled my chest. Not fear for myself. Fear of what remained hidden. I saw Victor. Nobody in the room looked surprised. That frightened me most of all. Outside, cheers suddenly erupted from the crowd. Through the window, Victor Hale's motorcade had arrived. Cameras flashed. Reporters rushed forward. The campaign event was beginning. Ronan moved beside me and stared down at the scene below. His expression became unreadable. Determined. Focused. Final. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. Delaney, if your memories keep returning at this pace, there is one thing you are about to remember. I looked at him. What? His eyes met mine, heavy with 12 years of secrets. You did not just witness what happened that night. He paused. You heard a name, and that name changes everything. The cheers outside sounded distant now, like they belonged to another world. Inside the office, every eye remained fixed on me. You heard a name. Ronan's words echoed through my mind again and again. A name that changes everything. I stared through the window toward the community center below. Victor Hale stood at a podium surrounded by cameras and supporters. He looked confident, comfortable, untouchable. Yet somewhere inside my fractured memories, another version of him existed. A version nobody else had seen. My pulse accelerated. Another memory surfaced without warning. The community center office. 12 years ago. Rain tapping against the windows. Evelyn speaking rapidly into a phone. Gabriel pacing near the door. Ronan standing beside me. Then Victor's voice. Calm. Controlled. Almost friendly. I squeezed my eyes shut. The memory sharpened. Papers covered a desk. Financial records. Names. Transactions. Then someone said another name. Not Victor's. Someone else's. My breathing caught. The name hovered just beyond reach. Close enough to feel. Too far away to grab. Delaney. Gabriel's voice pulled me back. Do not force it. Easier said than done. 12 years of missing answers stood inches away. I looked toward Ronan. You know the name. He hesitated. That hesitation confirmed everything. Yes. Frustration surged through me. Then tell me. Ronan's jaw tightened. It has to come from you. I almost argued. Then I realized why. If he told me, I would always wonder whether my memory agreed. If I remembered it myself, there would be no doubt. Another wave of applause erupted outside. Victor continued speaking. Cameras followed his every movement. Suddenly a strange detail caught my attention. A silver pin attached to his lapel. Simple. Elegant. Familiar. The sight hit me like lightning. The office. The rain. The records. Evelyn looking terrified. And that same silver pin reflecting light across a desk. My entire body froze. The missing memory finally broke free. I heard the voice clearly now. Not Victor's. Evelyn's. The money is not coming from Victor. My younger self asked a question. Who is behind it then? Evelyn answered immediately. One name. One person. The real architect. The real power. I gasped. Governor Alden Pierce. Silence crashed through the room. Even Gabriel looked stunned. Ronan closed his eyes. Not surprised. Resigned. The name carried weight. National weight. Former governor. Philanthropist. Business leader. One of the most respected men in the country. Victor Hale had never been the top of the chain. He was simply the public face. The realization changed everything. That is why nobody could expose it. I whispered. It went higher than anyone imagined. Gabriel nodded slowly. Evelyn discovered the connection weeks before anyone else. My mind raced. Every puzzle piece suddenly fit together. The hidden records, the pendant, the fear, the disappearances, the years of silence. None of it was about one politician. It was about protecting a network powerful enough to bury the truth indefinitely. Ronan stepped beside me and looked out the window, which means the evidence inside the pendant matters even more than we thought. My fingers instinctively touched the necklace. For 12 years it had rested against my heart, quietly carrying answers capable of changing lives. Suddenly my phone vibrated. The unexpected sound made everyone look down. An unknown number. One message. Only 6 words. Do not trust the wrong hero. My stomach dropped instantly. Gabriel moved closer. What is it? I showed him the screen. His expression darkened. Ronan took the phone next. For several seconds nobody spoke. Then another message appeared. This one included a photograph. An old photograph. Grainy. Taken 12 years ago. My breath caught immediately. The image showed Evelyn, Gabriel, me, and Ronan. But that was not what shocked me. Standing in the background was another figure. Partially hidden. Watching us. Someone none of us had noticed before. Someone whose face I recognized instantly. Because he was standing less than 50 feet away at the campaign event below. Smiling beside Victor Hale, as if he belonged there all along. For several seconds, nobody spoke. The photograph remained on the screen while the campaign event continued below. Victor Hale smiled for cameras. Supporters applauded. Reporters took notes. Yet none of that mattered anymore. My attention remained fixed on the man standing beside him. The man hidden in the background of a 12-year-old photograph. The same face. Older now. More polished. More successful. But unmistakably the same person. Gabriel stared at the image in disbelief. That cannot be right. Ronan's expression remained unreadable. It is. I looked from one man to the other. Who is he? Gabriel answered first. Nathan Cross. The name meant nothing to me. Ronan continued. 12 years ago, he worked as a junior administrative assistant. My eyes returned to the photograph. And now, a bitter smile touched Ronan's face. Now he runs one of the largest consulting firms in the state. Suddenly the message made sense. Do not trust the wrong hero. Everyone had been focused on Victor Hale. Focused on Governor Pierce. Focused on the obvious names. Meanwhile, someone else had quietly stayed close to every part of the story. Every memory. Every photograph. Every clue. Another realization hit me. The messages. Gabriel nodded slowly. He must have known the memories were returning. Outside, applause erupted again as Victor finished another speech. Yet something inside me had become strangely calm. For 12 years I had lived with a hole in my memory. For 12 years, everyone around me carried secrets. Now the truth finally stood in daylight. Not perfectly. Not completely. But enough. Ronan looked at me carefully. Delaney. I turned toward him. What? His voice softened. Whatever happens next, you finally have a choice. The words settled heavily in my chest. A choice. 12 years ago that choice was taken from all of us. Evelyn lost hers. Gabriel lost his. Ronan lost his. I lost mine. But not anymore. I reached up and touched the pendant resting against my neck. The small silver charm suddenly felt lighter than it ever had before. Not because its importance disappeared. Because I finally understood why I carried it. Evelyn never gave it to me because I was powerful. She gave it to me because she believed I would do the right thing when the time came. Tears filled my eyes unexpectedly. Not from sadness. From gratitude. She believed in a 17-year-old girl who doubted herself. She believed in me long before I learned how to believe in myself. Another memory surfaced. Not fragmented this time. Complete. Evelyn smiling as she adjusted the pendant. Ronan standing nearby pretending not to worry. Gabriel laughing at some terrible joke. Summer sunlight pouring through community center windows. None of us knew how much life would change. Yet for one perfect moment, we were simply young, hopeful, together. The memory lingered instead of disappearing. That was when I knew the healing had finally begun. Ronan stepped beside me near the window. We watched the crowd below in silence. The city stretched beyond the community center. Endless streets, endless stories, endless second chances. I spent 12 years angry at you, I said quietly. He nodded. I know. I thought you abandoned me. Pain crossed his face, familiar and honest. I know that too. I looked at him fully for the first time since he walked back into my life. Not the powerful man everyone feared. Not the legend people whispered about. Just Ronan. The boy who never stopped protecting the people he loved. The man who carried impossible burdens because he thought he had to carry them alone. A small smile appeared through my tears. You should have trusted me sooner. To my surprise, he laughed softly. The sound felt warm and familiar. Like coming home after a very long journey. You are probably right. Outside, the sun finally broke through the clouds. Golden light spilled across Brooklyn, across the community center, across the city that had witnessed every mistake and every miracle. I reached for Ronan's hand, not because the past was perfect, not because every wound had vanished, but because some people are worth finding twice. His fingers closed gently around mine, and for the first time in 12 years, neither of us looked back.